and welcome to the Actual Tech Media MegaCast. My name is Jess, and I am excited to be here with you all today. But before we jump into our content, I have some basic information to cover with you. Let's kick off our day here today by taking a quick tour of your audience console. And we're going to start with the questions window. Now, if you haven't already said hi, there is a whole audience of cool humans out there, so reach out and give a wave to the other members of the Actual Tech Media community. Also, keep in mind that if you have any tech issues today, a browser refresh is going to fix just about anything. But if those tech gremlins are clinging on, no problem. Just throw a comment in the question section and our crew will be there to help. We also want this to be an informative webinar for you. So throughout today's MegaCast, we hope you'll get engaged and ask all of your burning questions. Not only will we have team members responding to you over live chat, we will also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of our presentation. And if we do not get to your question during the webinar, don't worry, because the awesome experts that we have here with us today will be following up with you after we wrap. All right, next up on our tour, there are going to be lots of cool aha moments in the MegaCast today, and if you want to share those with your community, we've made it nice and easy for you. You can use the Twitter button right there in your audience console, and the hashtag for today's MegaCast will automatically get added to your post. And our last stop on this guided tour, be sure to check out the Handouts tab for some resources and takeaways from our speakers here today. We have an info pack collection of solution briefs, white papers, data sheets, free trials, ebooks, upcoming webinars, and more. So many great resources, so be sure to go explore. And if that wasn't enough fun, we also have some exciting prizes we will be giving away throughout the MegaCast today. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about those later on, but a few quick reminders for you all. You do need to be in attendance here live at the webinar in order to qualify to win a prize, and we will follow up with all winners after we wrap the MegaCast today. Now, all winners must submit an IRS Form W-9 to Actual Tech Media, and all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. Now, hey, if you're not sure what those are, no problem. You can find the full T's and C's in that Handouts tab. Again, just click into the Handouts section, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll find the full T's and C's waiting for you there. Now, the absolute most important thing to remember here today is that we love getting all your insightful questions during these live webinars. In fact, we love it so much that we have a special additional prize for all you inquisitive folks out there. In today's MegaCast, we will be giving away a prize for the best question asked in each of our sessions. Now, the expert speakers and teams will review all the questions asked after the webinar, which means that even if your question does not get read out in a live session, there is still a chance to win. If you are a lucky winner here today and would like to donate the value of your prize, we have several wonderful organizations that we partner with. So let us know when we follow up about winning, and we will get that rolling for you. Again, we are so happy to have you all here with us live at the MegaCast today, and we want to keep that good feeling going. So let's connect on social. Reach out and connect with Actual Tech Media on Twitter and LinkedIn. We have lots of great content, and we always want to hear from you. Now, if you're looking for more awesome content right away after we wrap, you want to jump right in, make sure that you subscribe to the Actual Tech Media channel on YouTube. Another fun way to win a prize and to grow this awesome community is to refer an industry friend or coworker to the Actual Tech Media webinar series. Now, you're going to find a link to do that right there in that Handouts tab, and you will also be automatically redirected after we wrap today. Now, both you and your coworker, your friend, could win a prize, and we actually hold those drawings every month. So be sure you refer somebody awesome before you head out today. It could quite literally be a win-win situation. Next, we have a cool opportunity for the decision makers out there to get connected with new and emerging tech and innovative vendors. Here's how it works. All you need to do is click on the link in your Handouts tab and fill out the application. Then the Actual Tech crew will match you with some vendors that we think you should be chatting with based on your needs. There will also be fun opportunities that you can choose to join in, like surveys or test running new solutions, extended demos, and so on. You'll get some chances to win extra prizes, you'll chat with great people, and you will learn about the hottest new trends in tech. So be sure to apply, or hey, send that link to a decision maker in your team. Now, I want to take a quick minute here to remind you about one of my favorite resources, and that is ransomware.org. You can find everything you need to know about ransomware, how to prepare, how to prevent and recover. The site is jam-packed with information, helpful tips, checklists, strategic approaches, case studies, everything you need in one place. So wherever you are in your ransomware preparedness journey, there is something for you at ransomware.org. So go check it out and start exploring. All right, I have one more exciting resource I have to tell you about today, and that is the Gorilla Guide Book Club. It's going to give you access to free enterprise IT books authored by top industry experts, so you can stay up to date on trending enterprise technology. And yes, these books are going to work on your Kindle, your mobile device, and they are completely free, super easy. You can download these awesome resources at gorilla.guide, and there's a link for you in the handouts tab as well. Okay, well, we've covered a lot of important things already, and I don't know about you all, but I am excited to dive in. So let's get rolling.
Alrighty, hello and welcome, folks. It is time to dive in on today's topic, understanding your cloud-native data protection and disaster recovery options. With the evolution of cloud infrastructure, many companies are now choosing to be cloud-native from day one. Others have chosen to fully transition to the cloud, and virtually all organizations are at least hybrid. The cloud has made so many things possible, but it comes with its challenges in terms of data protection, backup, and recovery. Likely, that's why you're here, to explore how you can best approach this challenge armed with the latest techniques for securing cloud architecture, including backup solutions, data encryption, and automated recovery processes. Luckily, we have expert advice coming your way on today's MegaCast to achieve just that. And I would love to introduce myself. My name is Mackenzie Puddesy. I am a moderator here at Actual Tech Media, and I've got my fellow moderators here in the wings on live chat, Jess Steinbach, Scott Becker, and Keith Ward. If it is your first MegaCast with me, it is great to meet you, and I want to thank you for being here. Feel free to shout out a hello, how are you, hola, bonjour, or whatever greeting you want to throw up in the questions tab. I know a ton of you already have done that, but welcome, 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 and love seeing all this energy and people from all around, not only the US and Canada, but around the world. So great to have you here. Now, I've got something exciting to talk about other than just wonderful information today. We have got some prizes. Today on the MegaCast, you could win one of 3 incredible Apple HomePods, and we are also giving away a $300 Amazon gift card during each session. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for when we announce those prizes. Quick reminder: we do need you to be live and present here at the MegaCast to win. And as mentioned in the housekeeping chat this morning, you can find the full T's and C's linked in the handouts tab if you have any questions about that. And hey, with that last little thing, I believe we are ready to rock. Now, if you've been on a MegaCast before, you'll know we always have a keynote to get things kicked off and get your minds ready and in the spirit, in the mode of thinking about the topic at hand. And today, I'm actually going to be going through a series of polling questions with you around the topic of cloud-native data protection and disaster recovery. So get your fingers ready, hovering over your mouse, and we're going to go through a couple polls to see where everyone is at and what you're thinking about when we look at cloud storage and protection. So if you can, which cloud provider does your organization primarily use for data storage and processing? Assuming you're here coming from a cloud background or at least researching one, are we looking at AWS, Azure, Google? Are you using some sort of a multi-cloud strategy? Or are you doing something else? Maybe you're not in these kind of big 3 cloud providers. And if you're not sure, or if you're kind of not wishing to disclose, feel free to throw other as your response there. Now, in this case, obviously, if you've taken the leap from on-prem or you have skipped it altogether, cloud is incredibly powerful. Obviously, it can be a little bit scary giving up some of your credentials, your power, your data, and making sure you can trust somebody with it. But for the most part, AWS, Azure, Google, these 3 have been pretty reliable. And it looks like a lot of you are in one specific bucket here. We've got quite a lot of people on a multi-cloud strategy. And I'm actually surprised. I'm going to throw up the results here. 38% are kind of Azure native, about 16 in AWS, about 7 in Google. And yeah, about 30 or about a third of you are using some sort of multi-cloud strategy. I actually thought more of you would be in a multi-cloud scenario. So very interesting to see. All right, next one here is what is your primary data protection concern in a cloud native environment? I don't wish any of you to lose sleep at night, but if you did lose some, what would it be over? Data loss or corruption, unauthorized access or breaches, compliance and regulatory requirements, system or application failures, or maybe you're unsure and that's why you're here today. You're here to get some more information, think this over, get a sense of, hey, what should I be maybe protecting more or thinking about more if I haven't already? I know for me, there's always this sense of if I've hired someone to do something. So if I put something in the cloud and I'm trusting them, it always hurts more if some data is lost or corrupted. But at the same time, I've had a lot of hardware go bad on me. So um, again, multiple copies, multiple protections, always a good way to go. All right, so we've got about 30% of you saying data loss or corruption, about 35 saying unauthorized access or breaches. Definitely a lot of issues with that. As we know, a lot of headlines made in the last 5 years. About 15% looking at the compliance and regulatory requirements, about 5 looking at that system and application failure, and 20 saying, hey, I'm not really sure. I'm not so sure. So cool. Okay, thank you. That makes a lot of sense to me. Okay, next up is which types of data backup strategies are you employing for your organization? And with this one, you can click multiple. So feel free. If you're doing a ton of these things, a combo of these things, or one of these things, you can kind of click through. If some of this is new to you, just a little summary. So CDP or your continuous data protection is really kind of this ideal setup for having minimal data loss because you're essentially always in real time or near real time being backed up and protected. However, it is super resource intensive. So great option, but can definitely use a lot on your resources. That snapshot based backup, well, it's great. Provides periodic recovery points with less impact on your resources, but it's not that kind of real time, robust setup. Incremental backups, saving time and storage by only backing up the changes since your last major backup can be pretty handy. Full backups, essentially like CDP, but a moment in time. So you are backing up everything, but it is not with live updates or near live updates. And of course, hybrid gives you a lot of options and flexibility. So you're getting the benefits of different methods. And it looks like a lot of you are employing a hybrid option. And honestly, pretty split results here. We've got people using a little bit of all of these buckets kind of in the teens, in the percentiles. I'm going to show you the results here. So yeah, about 15% on that CDP, about 19 on snapshots, 24 with incremental and with full backups, and about half of you are using some sort of hybrid solution. So awesome. That makes a lot of sense. All right, 2 more questions, and then we're going to dive into our speaker here. So, next one here is what do you consider the key tactic for successful data recovery in your cloud environment? So, first option is achieving recovery time objectives or your RTO, balancing recovery point objectives, RPO, with your backup costs, regularly testing and validating your recovery processes, aligning your recovery strategies with business continuity plans. Always want to make sure you're able to continue your business, of course. Or finally, ensuring data consistency during recovery. Maybe you're a data heavy company or you really need accurate data. And well, no one wants to lose their data, but obviously certain industries are more sensitive than others. All right, and I'll give you just a moment to keep answering there. I Again, pretty split results. There's no kind of one size fits all answer coming in here, which is cool. Definitely a little bit less for the RTO and RPO, and a lot to do with testing strategies for business continuity and ensuring consistency around data. So definitely looks like consistency is key. All right, I'm going to throw up these results for you just to see where everyone's at out there. So again, 11% for RTO, 15 RPO, 19% for those recovery processes and testing. 27 is our winner here, aligning your recovery strategies with business continuity. I think that makes a lot of sense. And finally, 25% ensuring data consistency during recovery. Alrighty, last question here, and then we're going to dive into things. Oop, that is not the one I want to show you. Just a sec. Here we go. When choosing data protection solutions for the cloud, what factors are most important to you? So, we're here, we're looking at options, we're looking at what's out there. Is it cost? Is it ease of integration with your existing systems, of which I'm sure you have many? Is it scalability as you're looking to grow and change and evolve over the coming months and years? Is it that vendor support? You don't want to be left out on an island when something goes wrong or when you're trying to set something up? Or is it those kind of robust features and capabilities that the platform can offer you to make sure you're able to do everything you wish to do? And again, I really think this is like a question and a non-question, right? Like all of these aspects are essentially something you need to take into account. They're all important, and often it's a bit of a sliding scale of which, you can achieve the best variation of all of these factors to make your best decision there. That said, again, I really just wanted to get you all thinking as you approach this topic and some of the platforms that you're able to use. And with that, I'm going to share up the results. All right, so we've got about 57% concerned about cost, 57% also with ease of integration, 32 with scalability, 33 with vendor support, and 55 with features and capabilities. So definitely cost, ease of integration, and the features and capabilities are on over half of your minds as you go through and think of, this is really important to me. Awesome. Okay, final poll. I told you last question, but I've just got one poll here saying, what's your time frame for adding new or updating existing IT solutions at your company? So, as we've gone through this, as we move forward, are you in a rush? Is this 0 to 6 months? You need to make some action happen, get some things moving. Is this more of a kind of this year thing, 6 to 12 months? Is this more of a 2-year thing? Or maybe you're not sure. And again, you're still figuring it out. You are looking at all the options before you make any big moves going forward. All right. Well, thank you for filling in that poll. Thank you for being super interactive already during this session, saying hello and commenting in the questions tab. The more attentive you are, the more we're going to get out of this together. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And with that, let's get things going. Today's MegaCast is short and sweet, but packed with valuable information. We have just one team presenting today to shed light on this topic, and then I'm going to give you back a little bit of extra time to spend in your days. That said, I will let you know of a couple awesome events coming up if you do want a little bit more than what you came in today with. So with that, please welcome from the Rubrik team, we have Philip Verlooy. He is the field CTO over at Rubrik. I'm looking forward to having you here, Philip, and I'm really looking forward to hearing whatever amazing content you prepared for us today. I know I've got a bit of a sneak peek, but with that, why don't you share with the audience, and I'll pass things over to you. Take it away.
Also on behalf of Rubrik, thank you for attending this event and spending some time with us going over protecting and securing your cloud environments. I'm Philip Verlooy, Field CTO here at Rubrik X. At Rubrik, our mission is to secure the world's data, and an ever-increasing part of that world is public cloud environments. So that's what I want to focus the majority of the session on today. Before we talk about cloud, though, let's start with this concept of cyber resilience. Cyber resilience is sort of a different mindset from focusing purely on prevention of cyber attacks to assuming the worst will happen at some point and incorporating that idea into your risk and recovery planning. Our assumption here is that cyber attacks are inevitable. People at some point will still click on the wrong things they will get through email or just find on the open web. All software, of course, has bugs, and some of these bugs are security vulnerabilities that can lead to incidents and breaches. Just think about how many times you have to update your iOS and Android apps on your phone, for example. And all software systems, they tend to break, and they tend to break all of the time, even though it's largely invisible for us as end users. A lot of these things tend to go awry and are also related to security gaps in those systems. So the question used to be not if, but when you were going to be breached or have a cyber incident in your organization. Today, the realization is really getting to not when are you going to get breached, but how many times will you potentially be a victim of this. So this assume breach mindset will potentially also remove some mental roadblocks and allow you to focus on bouncing back successfully and bouncing back better, building up your, let's say, cybersecurity and cyber resiliency capabilities to safeguard your organization and to continue to run your business on a day-to-day basis. Now, these changing environments, the way that we build our architectures, think about, going from largely on-prem to adopting hybrid cloud to, now multi-cloud and bringing in a lot of SaaS applications, is also leading to changing behaviors from a malicious actor perspective. These stats, they come from the latest IBM X-Force Threat Intelligence Index for 2024, where they noticed a 71% year-on-year increase in cyber attacks using stolen or compromised credentials. So this is fast becoming the biggest attack factor, especially when it comes to cloud environments, is these malicious actors. They're not sort of hacking into your system, they're not breaking in, they're effectively logging in using valid credentials, which becomes very difficult for existing security tools to evaluate at that point, and that's why they're sort of largely successful. About 32% of cyber incidents today involve some sort of data theft or data leakage event as well. So if you combine that with regulatory pressure around reporting towards regulators and so on what type of data was impacted, what type of potentially personal information you lost from your customers, you can see that this is increasing the pressure quite a bit on a lot of organizations. And then 84% of critical infrastructure incidents took place where the initial access factor could have been mitigated by implementing things like least privilege control on identities, for example. Again, if you look at sort of the technical part of least resistance for these malicious actors or these threat actors, it's quite clear that instead of going after these perimeter controls or maybe even taking a more esoteric part and going after your IoT devices, it's easier for them to either use some sort of phishing campaign. They would still need to to some extent compromise the device of that user that clicks on that phishing link, whereas the easiest part right now would be to use credentials. The way that they get those credentials can be fairly easy. Either you find credentials posted on things like a GitHub repository or a Pastebin or something like that, especially when it comes to things like API keys and so on. But there's of course people who offer you those valid credentials on avenues like Telegram and others. One example would be Redline Stealer, very successful malware, easily available, able to not only harvest things like saved credentials but also active cookies, making it fairly straightforward for these malicious actors to not only get in, but to maybe even subvert things like multi-factor authentication and so on. So once they have this valid account, this compromised account, they will start to laterally move around in your environment, get to a more privileged account with more permissions, and that's typically how they will get to your data. They will either steal your data, or they will encrypt your data, and in a lot of the cases, if not the majority of the cases today, we see it's actually even a combination of both. So they have two shots at getting you to pay the ransom and release the data back to you. Now, if you think about data that's been encrypted in the cloud or even on-prem, once you have a decryption key, or maybe you have a nice immutable backup solution, you can get your data back quite easily. But data that has been stolen, that tends to be gone forever, right? So if the genie is out of the bottle, you can't get it back in. And you have to trust that malicious actor that if you pay the ransom, they will actually not leak your data on the dark web. And we've seen enough evidence now that these people are very scrupulous, and some of them will just leak your data in any case. So the goal is to figure out a way to minimize the potential impact of a data exfiltration while still assuming that it can happen. So that's nicely fitting into our sort of cyber resilience assume breach mindset, let's say. Now, if you think about data growth, so where is the majority of the new data being created? That's, of course, in the cloud and in SaaS applications. So these figures are from our previous Rubrik Zero Labs report, which you can freely get from the Rubrik website as well. But what we saw there is that 20% of the new data is created on premises, but that's far outpaced by the cloud and SaaS. So 73% of new data is created in the public cloud and 145% in SaaS applications. The way to think about that is, I think, if you look at where are people experimenting, where is innovation happening, that's typically in the cloud or from a SaaS sort of perspective. So those data locations, they become the most interesting attack surface for malicious actors. They tend to dig where there's the most chance to hit gold, and the most chance to hit gold these days is in the cloud and in SaaS, as it turns out. Moving to the cloud also brings with it some security blind spots, especially if you think about using existing security tools and sort of lifting and shifting them into the cloud together with your workloads. There's certain things those tools aren't sort of prepared for. So our latest Rubrik Zero Labs pointed out that 70% of all data in a typical cloud instance is actually object storage. So that's vastly different from on-prem environments where it will be mostly file and block based storage. But of that data, more than 25% of all object stores, they do contain data covered by regulatory or legal requirements. So, PII information or HIPAA type information, PCI information from a financial perspective, and so on. And that type of data is much more valuable to an attacker because if, they know that if they have that type of information and they threaten to leak it, you're much more likely to pay a ransom because it's so much more impactful for you as an organization as well. And then looking at public cloud and SaaS, they are the leading attack surfaces today. Again, that's where that type of data can be exfiltrated. So that's going to be the first target for these malicious actors. And similarly to how it has always been in security, but especially true for multi-cloud now, you cannot secure what you cannot see. So getting visibility on those data assets would be step one. So all of that leads to some cloudy prospects, I would say. The weather is not super clear in the cloud, so there's more and more criminals, more and more malicious users. Again, they're targeting where sort of the biggest chance of success lies. We've seen a lot of examples in the public now around ransomware and ransomware payments and the monetary impact not only the cleanup operation has, but also things like impact on your organization at large and how you deal with that. Cloud environments, of course, are creating a larger and larger attack surface. There's more exposure, so you have more things to defend now, especially if you go multi-cloud and SaaS. All of these things have their own unique entry paths and services that you now have to understand and protect. And maybe your IT staff isn't prepared for that, but also maybe your existing tooling isn't really prepared for that either. Mentioned before as well, but there's more and more regulatory pressure, especially things like DORA, for example, in finance. And then if you happen to be based in Europe, we are now dealing with the NIS2 regulation, where not only these fines are getting quite substantial, but they also include, let's say, holding company leadership and holding board members to a certain cybersecurity standards, and if they sort of can't adhere to those standards, they will be held liable in some of these cases potentially. Then, if you think about adopting cloud, adopting multi-cloud, there's always the chance of performing some misconfiguration leading to, for example, publicly exposed cloud storage and cloud buckets and so on. But even the cloud provider itself isn't free of those things, right? There was a recent example where Google Cloud wiped out an entire customer environment, including their HA setup and including their Google-based backup, so they had to rely on a third-party backup vendor to get their data back. These things, they happen sometimes, so we sort of have to prepare for that. In terms of insiders, there's always going to be people who leave your organization. There's always going to be disgruntled employees to some extent, and they might take some of that sensitive information with them. There's even malicious actors now targeting some of these insiders to give them an easy path to the inside and sort of help them get to their ultimate goal, which is to get to your data. And then finally, I would say there's more and more nation states or more and more APTs active as well. An interesting one I saw from a couple of weeks ago was this joint statement from the NSA and the Five Eyes, saying that Russian cyber spies are also adapting their techniques from going from on-prem targets to more and more cloud-hosted environments. Again, that's where the chances of success are highest, unfortunately. So how do we address this? If you think about this very high-level, let's say, logical attack path or kill chain, the idea is we can focus on preventing a breach from happening, but we also need to take into account that it will still happen, like incidents will still happen. So the ultimate goal is how do we make sure that an incident, i.e. maybe somebody gets credentials, is able to log into your environment, doesn't turn into a breach. And if it does turn into a breach, how do we minimize the impact of that breach? So the way that we look at it from a rubric perspective is we work on, first of all, production data at rest, meaning the data does not have to be managed through rubric. It's just sitting in your public clouds. It's sitting in your SaaS environments. And that is where we will employ our data security posture management technologies. So we look at things like data hygiene, minimizing the amount of data that you have, especially when it comes to sensitive data. So think about having copies of data spread around your environment, typically for dev test purposes. Some of those data assets contain sensitive information, so they're just as valuable to a malicious user as non-copies of data as actual production data. So if that data isn't used actively, maybe you haven't touched it for a long period of time, why is it still there? So why are you paying the cloud provider to store it? And why are you sort of exposing that sensitive data to a potential breach? So finding that access data, that road data, let's say, and getting rid of it, either by actually deleting it or at least removing access to it, can go a long way in making sure the incidents don't turn into breaches. Then we have to implement the least privilege access principle. So the idea is, do we understand how identities are linked to data exposure on the back end, and can we then implement right sizing for those identities? Instead of overexposing and just giving full access permissions on anything, can we make sure that we only provide credentials with the access that they need to actually perform their day-to-day operations? And if they need more access at a certain point in time, we provide just-in-time sort of access and extend those credentials. So getting visibility on what that looks like will help you greatly in right-sizing these permissions and these privileges. Then the third thing that we look at is assessing data posture. So each and every cloud has different security capabilities. You can, turn on encryption, you can turn on logging for an S3 bucket in AWS, for cloud storage in GCP, and so on. But validating that you've actually implemented this across the board becomes troublesome. So the idea here is that we'll allow you to build policies that determine the baseline of security that you expect from your multi-cloud. And then Rubrik DSPM will go out and validate that that posture is still set and help you tweak that in if needed. Then understanding the blast radius of accounts. So if people get access to a higher privileged account, what data would they be able to target, for example, and making sure we minimize that. And then finally, detecting anomalous behavior. So the whole idea of understanding how data is being used in your environment, and then seeing these outliers, anomalous activity in your environment, somebody downloading sensitive data to their laptop for the first time ever, somebody accessing, sensitive information from a strange location around the world where you have no branch offices, for example, things like that we can monitor for and then help you implement the correct controls. So again, all of that happens before you have a copy of the data that's associated with Rubrik. So that's purely working on data at rest. And then, of course, we still have this concept of, well, what if the worst happens? What if my data gets destroyed or encrypted and I need to get back into production as quickly as possible? That's where our backup data stored in an immutable fashion, i.e. the Rubrik Security Cloud capabilities through Rubrik Cloud Native Protection come in. So we'll help you pinpoint the latest and greatest, let's say, safe copy of the data that wasn't impacted by any malware, help you restore it as quickly as possible, understand the impact in your environment. And if you do not want to sort of do this on your own, we do have the Rubrik ransomware recovery team to help you with that. Again, our assumption here is that stress might be high when you're going through an active ransomware recovery scenario. And if you can rely on this great bunch of people who have done it multiple times for customers all around the world and have sort of a standard process, they will guide you through that. That will help a lot. Now, all of these solutions aren't point products that you have to individually implement. They're actually integrated nicely into what we call the Rubrik Security Cloud. So depending on your specific use case, if it's cloud data protection or if it's more data security posture management, they all come together in the Rubrik Security Cloud and can be consumed as a SaaS product from our Security Cloud services. It all starts, I would say, with this difference in philosophy when we think about how do we implement this and how do we have our customers consume this. So there's a difference in philosophy in that we want to make this extremely simple. The way that you operate this is very centralized. You work on the basis of what we call an SLA domain or an SLA policy, and you can apply that policy across the multi-cloud and across SaaS and even on-prem environments. Whereas if you look at individual cloud providers, they typically do not think in this solution manner. They really offer you building blocks to build something yourself. And even if you think about a single cloud provider, that single backup solution, for example, that they will offer you is not valid across their entire estate either. So there's a lot of, let's say, things that you sort of have to manually connect together and manually figure out what is the best way forward here. So at a high level, why is this so difficult from a cloud perspective to secure and recover data? So first thing, of course, is lack of visibility and control of your growing data environment, which is a direct result of adopting more and more cloud services, of course. So you have, PaaS, SaaS services. Some of these things have sensitive data in them. Some of that data is important from a regulatory requirement. You have your internal teams, let's say, with their internal tools. Some of them aren't really fit for purpose when it comes to cloud. But all of them have different expectations and different requirements when it comes to these environments as well. So then it becomes really difficult to uniformly understand if something happens in your environment, let's say a ransomware attack, can we even recover from a ransomware across all of these environments? And can we actually prove that out? Like, how do we make sure that this is effective when that time inevitably happens in our environment? So even with cloud native backup tools, it's going to be challenging to get a baseline copy of a backup across all of your services. It's operationally quite complex, and especially when it comes to things like visibility, compliance, reporting, that's going to be really hard to implement cross cloud. Then a backup is only as good as the recovery capabilities that it provides, essentially. So if you think about recovery being quite manual in the public cloud, not super performant, missing things like single file recovery and so on, that becomes a challenge. And then finally, the cost or the lack of cost optimization, I should say, in the public cloud, because there's a lack of storage tiering, there's a lack of compression and deduplication, there's multiple clouds needing multiple tools. These all play into a higher cost and a higher TCO at the end of the day. If you then multiply this with multiple accounts across multiple clouds, that problem becomes sort of worse and worse and worse, especially then if you also need to think about a hybrid environment and SaaS solutions at the same time. So again, we unify all of this. We provide these capabilities across multiple clouds, but also across multiple stakeholders in the environment. So what that looks like then is we give you the capability to gain data visibility and control across those cloud environments. So understand the data that you have in the environment, then understand if it's protected in the right way, all from the same SaaS platform. We'll drive down the exposure, so we'll reduce the data theft potential in your environment, and will allow you to confidently back up and restore all of the data across multi-cloud and SaaS, and all done again with a lower TCO potentially in mind. So with that, I'd like to thank you very much for attending our session. If there's any questions, happy to take any email or reach out to me on x.com. I'm Philip V there, but happy to chat to you guys a bit more about our cyber resiliency capabilities. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Philip. Thank you so much. Just so you're all aware, Philip will not be sticking around for a live Q&A session, but if you have posed questions, do not fret, they will not go unanswered. I can assure you that all of your questions will be passed on to the Rubrik team, and they'll be able to reach out with the information you're looking for. Additionally, I want to point out that I put up a poll question for you. This is not like the polls before, essentially just looking to see what sort of feedback or any additional resources that you might be looking for from Rubrik. And essentially this is kind of your easy button. You're requesting exactly the type of information you want to check out. And after today's MegaCast, they'll be passing those on along to you so that you get what you're looking for easily and as soon as you want it. With that, we also have the handouts tab. So if you've been poking around in the questions tab there, nestled in the same window, you can check out the handouts. And in there, there is a link to download the white paper, Rubrik Security Cloud, the trusted data security solution for cyber recovery. In there, it's going to cover why legacy backup is untrustworthy for cyber recovery, why data security is the trusted approach to cyber recovery, and the Rubrik Security Cloud and its component services. So this will be a perfect way to follow up on the conversation we just had with Philip. Definitely worth checking out and getting your hands on that before we wrap up the MegaCast. And with that, this is the end of the MegaCast. I know if you've been on one before, we often do have several teams. Today, we've just got a beautiful one and done. So thank you for being here. Thank you for taking a little bit of time on your Wednesday to start thinking about this process, get your eyes and ears attuned, and learn a little bit about some options for cloud native data protection and disaster recovery. And with that, I'm going to give away a few awesome prizes. So Like I said in the beginning, we have got not one, not two, but 3 Apple HomePods up for grabs, as well as a $300 Amazon gift card to give away. Quick reminder, you do need to be present here at the webinar to win. And with that, drum roll on your desks or your countertops or the cafe tables, wherever you're tuning in from today, for our lucky winners. First and foremost, the $300 Amazon gift card is going out to Amanda Husky from Virginia. The first HomePod is going to Elizabeth Menker from Ohio. Second, going to Drew DeVries from Michigan. And the third and final going to David McGlumphy from Ohio. So just to recap, gift card, Amanda Husky from Virginia. HomePods are for Elizabeth Menker from Ohio, Drew DeVries from Michigan, and David McGlumphy from Ohio as well. Huge congratulations to the 4 of you. As always, we will be in touch about claiming your prize after today's webinar. And if you are on today's webinar, and you loved what you saw and you are interested to talk to us about presenting on a future summit, EcoCast, or MegaCast webinar, well, we would absolutely love to hear from you. You can reach out via email at connect@actualtechmedia.com and start the conversation there. And with that, on behalf of Actual Tech Media's team, I want to thank all of our speakers from Rubrik, and of course, I'm going to give myself a pat on the back for our awesome keynote poll session that we went through together. Thank you all for being super attentive, for asking some awesome questions. I had so much fun with you all today talking about understanding your cloud native data protection and disaster recovery options. I hope that you all gotten some interesting ideas and some tips, and maybe you're even feeling lit up and ready to take some next steps. Now, that said, if you have enjoyed your time today and you wish to check out an upcoming session, we've got a super cool expert series. This one is part of a security series, fine-tuning operations to keep the enterprise secure. These are awesome. They're kind of like a 1-hour masterclass where we're bringing in external experts from the industry. I love these personally, so I'm going to plug this and say best check it out. This is taking place this Friday, August 9th, same time, 12 p.m. Eastern or 9 a.m. Pacific. And with that, I hope to see you all again soon. And well, until next time, I'm wishing you all an absolutely magical rest of your day. Take good care.